Hey bestie, it's B. Bubby, if you're gonna do it, do it. He only waits until I hit record to do this. It's like he knows that this is his thing in our videos. Hello! Really glad to see you here. I'm super excited. Yeah, I am excited. I kind of was like, am I excited to like talk about antidepressants with you? Yeah, I guess I am actually, because a lot of good has come out of it. What I think going through mental health issues can be very isolating, and one thing I want to make sure I do with my platform is overshare about my experience with mental health, because it is that serious. And if that means keeping you on this earth and enjoying your life, I'm gonna never stop talking about it. So with that, yeah, trigger warning, we're gonna talk about a lot of uncomfortable things. We may get into thoughts of suicide, things like that. So if those topics are just not for you, I would go ahead and exit. We will miss you, but we'll chat in another video. So today, I'm speaking from my personal experience. You guys know I'm not ever going to give you like advice when it comes to this. I'm just simply telling my story, my experience with getting medicated. And what I wanted to highlight today is the signs and symptoms where I knew I am ready for medication, because transparently, I fought it off for probably 3 years as it relates to depression specifically. Anxiety was kind of something for me that slowly became a bigger issue, more so last year and this year at certain times of the year, but I didn't feel like it was super debilitating until this year. So we'll get into it, but before we do, make sure you hit that subscribe button if you're new. Also hit the notification bell because YouTube be playing. And if you'd like to support me, you can always come follow me on other platforms and engage. Let me know the besties are in the room. I love to know you guys are there. You're my safe space, and I'm just really grateful that you guys support me across other platforms as well. So let's get into it. The signs that I was ready to be medicated. One of my very clear signs and symptoms was that I was very fatigued. So typically, I am a morning person. I feel my absolute best when I wake up. I like to get things done at the front of the day. Like, that's kind of how I always have been. But when I was experiencing a deterioration in my mental health, there was no such thing as a morning person. I was waking up later and later, and I really didn't think much of it. I just figured, well, my body probably needs this extra sleep. And it did, but it was like I was sleeping in later and later, and then I really didn't have a lot of gas in the tank. So I could get a full 8 hours of sleep. I could get more than that, but then I would try to like actually have a full day of work, and it was just really difficult. I can't figure out a word. Maybe like the word heavy is the best way to describe it. It just felt like my days were so heavy. I literally would wake up with like bricks on my shoulders. Not literally, obviously, but just in terms of like how my energy was feeling, it was just heavy, and it felt everything was exhausting. And I knew that this was very unlike me, but this was kind of a sneaky one where I just thought something else might have been wrong. Like maybe it's my hormones, maybe I'm not eating the right foods. And to be honest, you guys know I really tried to do all those things and control my lifestyle as best as I could, but that wasn't helping. So the fatigue, you have to watch out for it because it's sneaky, and obviously there can be many reasons why you're not feeling energetic, but if you notice that it's getting worse and you need to be in bed more and more, and then suddenly you're kind of bedridden, that might be a red flag that there's something deeper going on. So just keep an eye on it. Another thing that I did when I was really struggling was isolating myself entirely. Now, I know this could probably just be a byproduct of being a Scorpio, but it was definitely an unhealthy amount. Like, I didn't want to see anybody. I didn't want to talk to anybody. And looking back, now that I'm in a better headspace, I realized that this was putting me in a very horrible place, because what I have learned, you need community, you need people, you need friends, you need family, you need some sort of sense of community around you. It is a human need that we all have. So when you take that away from yourself, even if you think it's in your best interest, you're putting yourself in a deeper hole. And I really thought that me being isolated from people was the best for a lot of reasons. I thought, well, if I'm not in a good mood, nobody wants to be around me anyways. And we'll get into more on negative talk in a bit, but I have this voice telling me that that no one likes me, no one wants to be around me. It is like a burden to be around me. So it was easier for me to convince myself to just go in my room, close the blinds, and just basically veg out. And so that's what I did for a few months. And I've definitely gone through other periods of being like this, but this time was really bad. And I think when you also separate yourself from friends and family, that negative self-talk really ramps up, and it's easier to believe it, especially when you don't have people to bounce that off of. Which leads me into my next one, which is a lot of negative self-talk. So you guys know I'm a really big believer in affirmations, positive thinking, and I'm gonna be totally real with you guys. I've never had as much of a hard time with being in a negative headspace than I have earlier this year. And it's never been as hard for me to like channel that positivity, because you guys know, you go back in my videos, I'm big on positive mindset, affirmations, all those things. But it felt like someone took out a plug. Like maybe I was plugged into something before and someone just yanked it out, and I couldn't even remotely get myself to like want to be positive, let alone believe it. And that was probably one of the scarier symptoms that I had, because I obviously pride myself on being a bit of positivity, especially to you guys. So this was a really big deal for me in the sense that it kind of affected me in a lot of ways, because then I felt like I had nothing to give you guys because I wasn't positive or feeling positive anymore. I just was like, well, what's the point then? Like, this is kind of my thing and I don't have that thing anymore. So then who am I online, It's hard for me to convince myself to want to show up if I can't be positive. But you obviously saw, even in those moments, I still did show up. Maybe it wasn't in the way I wanted to show up, but I still understand that a lot of you were thankful and appreciated me showing up in those really bad times, because maybe it showed you something in yourself and you could relate to someone, someone that you connect with. And it's not nice to know that other people are suffering, but it is nice to know that you're not alone and that other people are getting through those things and you can see yourself in their testimony. So I really pride myself on just not showing you guys the highlight reel. So that means you're coming along for the journey when shit hits the fan. And that's what I did. Even though I was in a really bad place, I knew deep down I was gonna come out of it. And when I did, it was gonna be able to help other people. That's where we are now, which is an amazing thing. But yeah, negative self-talk was a really big thing for me. And to be honest with you, it scared me. I've never been afraid of myself where like I couldn't really separate the truth from what I was telling myself. And they weren't nice things. And when you start to talk that way to yourself, it's really the catalyst to a sharp decline, because what you focus on grows. So if you're focusing on the worst things you think about yourself, these are the thoughts that are gonna manifest in your mind. And soon enough, you're not gonna think any good about yourself. So it's one thing to have the occasional negative thought, but there became a point where it was overwhelming. And just waking up, I was immediately just so down on myself. And I really could not see any good in myself at all, which is also sad and scary to say, but it's the truth. And I know for so many of you, like even with having a platform, coming online and having all of you tell me amazing things and kind things, which I do appreciate, but it doesn't matter when I don't believe it. So I'm just saying that to say, if someone like me who has a positive audience can get to that place, please don't think it's crazy for you to get to that place, and just be a little more kind to yourself and know that you're going through something and it's just gonna take some time to get back to a better place. So another thing that came up for me was I really lost interest in things that I love. One of my favorite things is creating content. I love coming here. I love being with you guys. I love my job. Like, that is one of my favorite things. Obviously, there are other things I love too, but when I started to resent my job, I really got scared, because I was like, okay, something is really off. If I don't want to make content anymore, that's bad. And obviously that affected my work, that affects my income, that affects so many areas of my life. So in a sense, it's not really an option for me to hate my job unless I want to go do something else. But I didn't want to do anything else. I just didn't want to do this job either. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't feel, and this is kind of segueing into the next thing, but my next point was I had a lack of creativity. And obviously with my job, I need an abundance of creativity and ideas because I always need to be able to come on here and show you something or entertain you in some way. And when I can't feel creative, I can't do my job. So when your brain is literally so imbalanced to the point that it's not prioritizing a YouTube video, and I had to now that I'm out of it, I can realize the logic in it is my brain was just trying to help me get through the basic needs of life. Truly, at one point it was just, have I eaten, have I slept? These were my two priorities for a bit of time. And so no, there wasn't room to want to do a video or want to even show up on camera. That was really difficult for me. And I personally had my brain chemicals tested. I talked about this previously, and it showed that I had low serotonin. It showed that I had low indicators that would basically lead to a result of depression and anxiety, because I also had some issues with my norepinephrine, which is in charge of your fight or flight. But then it was then what do we do? I really wanted to supplement all of this naturally and just aid my lifestyle and change it up so that it could support that, but I just wasn't in a place that was enough. And my pride was in the way of me accepting that because I did not want to be medicated. I felt like if I get medicated, that means I'm never going to be able to come off. That means XYZ, I'm not going to know how to self-regulate. There's so many stigmas around medication that I think are so unfair, and these are ideas that I have picked up from other people who have maybe shamed me and being well, don't depend on medicine too much. So yeah, there were a lot of reasons why I was pushing it away. With the lack of creativity leads me to my next point, which there was also a lack of motivation. So when I'm not feeling creative, when I'm not feeling energetic, it just makes sense that you're not going to be motivated to do anything. I certainly didn't want to work. So if that was the case, what do you think I was motivated to do? Absolutely nothing. There were days where I wasn't even motivated to even eat. I started slipping on my workout routines. Everything that I really stay on top of just kind of slipped through the cracks. And I felt like I was losing a grip on my life. And that's when I started to feel like I was out of control. And that was really difficult for me to process. I love control. I'm a control freak. And if I can't control my own self, that's when things get even more dark. So with the lack of motivation, I also started to not tend to my responsibilities. So there were definitely days where chores would build up. I wasn't doing laundry. I would maybe wash the clothes. They would sit for weeks. I would wear the same outfit every day. It was getting to a point where it was a little concerning. And this is all happening behind closed doors. No one except for AJ really knew what was happening. So this is where I'm very thankful for AJ, because there were definitely days where, he didn't question anything. He never made me feel bad about where I was. He would just pick up the slack. He was doing a lot more of the chores that he doesn't normally do. We split things. So he just kind of filled in the gaps and took care of that for me. But I think in those moments, I felt so much shame and guilt that he was stepping up to do those things. Although I'm grateful, I just felt really bad because I was just I'm slacking so much that now he's cleaning up my mess. But it was all interlinked. It's I would fold my laundry if I had a little bit of energy, but I was so depleted and just so tired that was an overwhelming concept to be able to just fold my laundry and clean the kitchen and load up the dishwasher or put dishes away. It was too much for me at that time. I was also just highly sensitive. So I said, everything felt overwhelming. And when you're in that state, it is, because you're running on E. You're quite literally running on E. And it could be for many reasons. Who knows why I got to the place that I did. But I do think a lot of it has to do with, it was kind of a snowball effect, and just I was a ticking time bomb because of the way that I was, treating myself, my mindset. It was just kind of getting to a point where it was gonna implode on itself, and it did. But I was very sensitive and took a lot of things just personal. I would find myself crying at pretty much anything, and that could be on TV, a movie, or just anything. I was very teary, just crying for no reason. Waking up, I would cry. I was I don't even want to be awake. Sleeping was my escape. It was the only escape that I had. You're down bad when you want to go to sleep and dream, because that's where you're actually happy. And that was my case. Is I would wake up and I was disappointed that I had to have another day. So yeah, it just kind of got to that weird place. And then of course, one of the more uncomfortable ones to talk about is not wanting to be on Earth anymore, wanting to kind of unalive yourself. I definitely never made plans to do anything, but the thought of like not being here was so much more inviting at times that is one of the things where I really got scared and, you know, told my therapist about like, okay, this probably isn't good. But yeah, I really couldn't see the point anymore. You get to this place where everything feels stupid. It's like, what's the point, right? And that's what sends you into that direction. And you have to be very aware that these thoughts are not true. There is so much beauty in your life. There is so much about you that is great. You are literally a beautiful person on the inside and out. And this whole idea that none of that is true and none of it is worth it is truly just a misconception and an illusion that your mind is playing on you. And you just might need a little bit of help. In fact, I think if you have any thoughts and you are anti-med like I was, it's like, think about it. Just taking the meds or hurting yourself, like there's an obvious choice here. Take the meds, try it out, see if it works, because there's absolutely no reason why that should ever be an option for you. And if that is becoming an option for you, I don't take that lightly. You have to reach out to someone. I will put a suicide prevention hotline number in the description because you can always reach out. You can text these hotlines. You can talk through things with someone on the other line. It's a human, and sometimes it's a lot easier than telling a friend or a loved one, because I get it, like you don't want to scare them, right? So talk to a stranger then. Those resources are available and they can even help you figure out next steps in terms of getting help. And the last thing I'm going to talk about that happened for me was actually a change in appearance. So, I mean, I can easily like hide things on camera, but for me, my change in appearance was not just like in terms of weight. I did gain weight, but I also just stopped taking care of myself as much. And I think the only time that I really would was if I was doing a video. I would try to get like a little bit decent. So, you know, mental health issues affect people in a lot of different ways. For me, I was coping with food 100%. Maybe it wasn't as bad as it had been, but there had definitely been periods of like binge eating or just overeating to the point of feeling sick. But in the most recent year, like I've made so much progress. So yeah, like this resulted in me like putting on extra weight that might not be super noticeable, or maybe it is, I don't know, but I was able to somewhat control that on camera by wearing certain outfits. Some people cope with food, some people lose their appetite, so that's why you shouldn't comment on people's weight. You don't know why. Like if they're looking really skinny, like it could be because they are so depressed. You don't want to reinforce anything negative in someone's life. So for me, it was obviously the opposite. I was coping with food and gaining weight, and then I was losing interest in taking care of myself. So I just like really didn't want to get dressed, didn't want to get ready for the day, had no motivation to do any of that. And that's another sign that I was definitely slipping, because I love getting cute. Even if it's not for my job, I just love to feel put together. So yeah, when I finally got medicated, I was really nervous to do it. I even started it and I stopped it because I got scared, and then I started it again and I said, okay, I'm gonna commit to this. I gave it a few weeks, I gave it a month. I started to notice the changes slowly. Like when it kicked in for me, the one day it did, I had done like this deep clean of our office back there, which is already messy again, but I had been meaning to straighten it up for like 3 months. And when the medicine kicked in, I remember one of the first things I did was take care of that in a matter of 2 hours. Something I put off for 3 months, I finally got done in 2 hours. And that was just one of the first signs. Then other signs started to happen. One, I was shocked that I am taking an antidepressant, but my anxiety got better. And I used to fixate on a lot of things. I used to stress about a lot of things. I just couldn't go there anymore. And I started to see, you know, colors started to look a little brighter, and like started to listen to music and actually like it. Like that was another weird symptom for me, is like I didn't like any music, which is crazy because I grew up on playing instruments. I grew up on singing. Music is such a big big part of my life. And there was like no music that could even tap into my soul anymore. I would just ride in the car with like no music on for a while. So when the medicine kicked in, I started to like enjoy music again. I was like singing in the car with the windows down, and I would notice, I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't done this in so long. This is so cool. And then it was just other things, like now I'm waking up at 6 a.m. You guys can watch that vlog I posted a few weeks ago, like getting up at 6 a.m., walking on my walking pad for 2 hours and clearing my inbox from 6 to 8. And that gives me almost 5 miles of walking. So now I'm able to like habit stack and get my work done, get some fitness in. I'm back in the gym and I'm actually liking the gym. I used to dread going to the gym, but now I so look forward to it. I so look forward to going to my Pilates class, doing the walking pad, and just eating at the same time. The weight is kind of like falling off. What I did put on is like easily coming off, and I'm not even thinking about it, which is amazing, because for 2 years I was thinking about it and I was trying to like break. I had not broken this one plateau with my weight for like over a year. I stopped thinking about it, and when I tell you, this is the most non-restrictive I've ever been in my life. For whatever reason, the weight started to fall off, and I felt like I was getting back to being like comfortable in my body again, and like not being so reclused, and you know, just feeling uncomfortable and insecure in my skin. It's been an inside out difference, and I do believe, like, you know, when you're feeling good on the inside, it shows on the outside. I finally saw friends I hadn't seen basically all of 2023, and they were like, you look so good, you look different. Like, people keep saying I look different, and I'm literally like so cute. It's the meds. So I've been open about it here and there, but it has made a drastic change in my life. I hope that it stays that way. I'm definitely gonna keep you guys posted, but as of now, this has been a really positive change for me that's gotten me out of a hole. My goal is to not stay on medication for a very long time, but in the meantime, I'm using it as like a crutch to get back into the swing of life, get motivated, feel like that passion for things, and you know, just get back to being in love with life. And then hopefully my goal is to slowly taper off of that and be able to do it on my own. Yeah, but we're taking it all day by day. I'm being super kind to myself about it, and I hope that if, like, you know, if medication is something you're interested in, I hope you at least talk to someone about it and get an understanding of what your options are. You know, looking back, I'm kind of like, wow, I feel like I have deprived myself of a few years of just enjoying things now that I feel super clear and back on track. There are like moments I wish I could go experience again now that I'm in this place, but there's no need in wishing things to do it over again. It's just about making every moment from this point on last longer. But I only say that to tell you that you don't have to deprive yourself. There are options out there for you. Even if it's not medication, there are things that you can do, and you definitely should talk to a professional about all of that. I just wanted to share my experience with medication. If you want to talk more about it, if you have specific questions about it, I'm here. Drop it in the comments. I am totally open to, you know, helping out in any way as it relates to talking about mental health, medication, options, just, you know, lifestyle changes, anything. Yeah, medication, it's obviously been a positive experience for me, but it can be tricky to find the thing that works. And I will say, this isn't the first thing that I've tried. This is, you know, something that's finally worked for me, but I've tried other things that weren't a good fit. And then I had to also work through side effects. So it's not necessarily a smooth sailing experience. There are some kinks you have to iron out in terms of finding the right fit for you, and then also working through any side effects that you may experience. But it's different for everybody, so don't get lost in the sauce and like look up everyone's experience. You will drive yourself crazy and you'll get in your own head. So anyways, if you have any questions, leave them down below. I love you guys. I hope this helps you out a little bit if you are struggling, and I'll see you next week.